to our No Such Thing as a Fish Comic Relief Marathon. We are about to start our third fact. If you're just joining us now, this is a 20-hour-long live stream video podcast. Usually we would do 4 facts, but this time we are doing 35 facts in one big go to celebrate 35 years of comic relief. And to help us do it, we have invited 35 of our friends to come along and do the facts with us. So we are now moving on to fact number 3, and we are so delighted, so honored that we are going to be joined by the founder and conductor of the Kingdom Choir. This is the choir that sang at Harry and Meghan's wedding. If you remember watching that, this is the person behind it all. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome for fact number 3. It is Karen Gibson.
Hey!
Hi, Karen.
Hi. Love to be here. Thank you for having me. This is very exciting. I've never done it.
You've not done this before. Okay, what have you got for us? What's your fact?
All right, so my really amazing, interesting fact is that, well, we all know Dr. Martin Luther King. We don't know that he was great friends with Mahalia Jackson, the great gospel singer. And when he was down, when he was feeling upset, some people say depressed maybe, he would call her up, have somebody call her up and get her to sing to him down the phone. And that would relieve him and make him feel all better. The power of music.
Imagine that. Do you think anyone else does that? Do you think, like, if, I don't know, say Joe Biden's feeling down, he can call up Rihanna or Katy Perry? Just have some tunes?
I think maybe not Rihanna. Maybe he likes Rihanna.
You can probably get a whole menu of options. You know, if you want to feel uplifted, please ring so and so. If you want to feel gloomy, please ring Ed Sheeran. If you want to feel, you know,
You didn't say that, really, did you? Yeah.
Didn't Katy Perry used to sing gospel? Am I making that up?
No, not at all. She used to be a worship leader, which is a little bit different to gospel. So gospel tends to be praise, can be ballady, but worship music is directed to God.
Oh, really?
So gospel music tends to be me encouraging the listener, asking the listener to join in, but worship gets you into a space with God himself. So that's what she used to do.
Mahalia Jackson she is the most famous gospel singer ever, are we saying? She's definitely top 5, isn't she?
I think so. I think she's the most famous. Yeah.
And she also, I didn't realize she did have this incredibly close relationship with Martin Luther King, and even is responsible for the I Have a Dream speech.
Isn't that amazing? A lot of people don't
Extraordinary.
That's extraordinary.
Well, what do you mean, Anna? Are you saying it was her dream, or it was?
He stole it.
Yeah, he said she has a dream.
My friend had a dream. And
That was the first draft, yeah.
Well, do you know the story, Karen?
Yeah, I know the story. Known it for a while. So he is at the rally that was August the 28th. You know, the march to Washington, 1963, and she's standing on the podium, I think to his left, and he's in the middle. So he's got a written speech, and he's in the middle of this speech, and all of a sudden she yells out, "Tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream." Did you hear that American accent?
It's good.
And you think that, you know, he's speaking to 300,000 people, and you think that maybe he would ignore her, but it says something about their relationship that actually he then does go into the dream, tells them about the dream that he wants for his children, and what he wants for his future concerning, you know, togetherness and you know, racial, you know, embracing one another. I think that's what he's talking about.
Is it had he had that speech to hand, like he'd done it before maybe, and he decided to do it, or no?
The story is that he was doing his speech, and it was mid-speech that she yelled out, "Tell him about the dream," and he sort of put the papers down and went, "I had a dream," and sort of like,
That's
so
cool.
But what we're not sure about is if it was a literal dream that he had, or if it was a conversation they'd had, or you know, where that dream came from. She just said tell them about the dream.
What if she was talking about a different dream?
Yeah, the one with the dragon.
That's possible, but I think this dream works out. I think it works out. We're still remembering it 58 years later, so I think it's all right. Yeah,
Sure.
She got lucky. Yeah, I think they think maybe that he'd mentioned it in different contexts at smaller rallies, and because she accompanied him to a lot of places, you know, she'd heard him mention it. But apparently the speech that he was going to make that day was kind of dry. And yeah, didn't have any of this. Well, I mean, it was still.
He was a famously dry speaker, wasn't he? Yeah, he was famously dull. Couldn't really hold a crowd.
Well, I'm not going to say it was dry or it wasn't dry, but because I actually met the speechwriter.
No.
Wow.
Really?
Cool.
Back in 2012, one of my school choirs, Clarence B. Jones, lovely guy, sung for him at the British Library. Wow. And they sung for him, I think he was on tour, and they sung "We Shall Overcome." And he was so moved that he came on stage in tears and sung with the girls. And it was a very, very special. So I'm not going to say that the speech was dry.
I think it was Andy who said that, wasn't it?
Yeah, so,
Wow.
I feel like I remember something like Martin Luther King, the day before he died, had a pillow fight, I believe. Do you remember that? I think he was in a hotel with some friends and they got into a pillow fight, which is a very strange thing to picture him doing.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun and probably a much needed stress reliever.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
interesting times.
So there's been a lot of famous people, like as James was saying, you know, Katy Perry. I did think as well was a gospel singer, but a few people I didn't realize. MC Hammer began in gospel.
Really?
Yeah, and he was in a band, wasn't he? He was in the Holy Ghost Boys, I believe they were called, and he kind of left it. And yeah, we don't really know him because obviously we know him for his Hammer Time. We know him for his trousers, which
absolutely
inspired the Aladdin trousers in the original Disney cartoon. Literally was the inspiration. And also, we found out not too long ago that it turns out MC Hammer doesn't like hammers. He's supposedly, he says he finds them a scary prospect. Hammers, yeah.
Okay, this is interesting. This is all news to me. That's very interesting. I think he's gone back to church since his MC Hammer days. So I don't know if he's still wearing the trousers though. He's gone back. I think he's a preacher.
Is he?
So,
Well, Kanye West has taken up preaching. I know he's sort of taken up everything in some ways, but you don't seem delighted about this. He runs his own church service every Sunday, which I didn't know. Sunday service.
Actually, he's doing a great thing for gospel music and bringing gospel music back to the fore in America, and he's very inspiring to gospel singers and soul singers. Yeah, over here, very. We love him, and he's very creative, very inventive. The choirs look good; they sound amazing. So there's been this thing about gospel choirs maybe dying out, but he's really helped to bring them back to the fore again. So I love what he's doing. I support him.
Yeah, there's an amazing, if anyone wants to see a sort of behind the scenes insight into his Sunday service. On Netflix, there's this David Letterman show, which is My Next Guest Needs No Introduction is the title. And he talks to Kanye, and Kanye brings him into this church service gospel thing. And it's basically improv to an extent because they're singing a tune and Kanye's rapping over it. It's stunning. I mean, it's absolutely stunning to watch. And his last album, I think, incorporated the choir as the backup for his album. Yeah. Karen, can I ask you, I don't know how much you're allowed to say about it because of NDAs and so on, but can you tell us something about the experience of having the world hear your choir at a royal wedding? I mean, what an event.
Yeah, it was quite incredible. I would call it a pivotal moment in my life. And you know, I judge things by pre-wedding and post-wedding. But yeah, it was a beautiful day. Really, really gorgeous. We felt very honored, very privileged. I don't remember being scared, but I just remember being escorted from London, our coach being, police escorted, and the choir being so giddy and people singing all the way there, and the sun decided to come out on the day. It was just amazing. But I have to say, I had no idea that there were nearly 2 billion people listening. I can't compute it.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Because Dan, that's that always thing that you say about the most watched thing of all time. Like your theory was that it was the 2012 Olympics or something, maybe.
Yeah. No. I had a theory about the biggest laugh
that was it.
on Earth. Yeah, and actually, the sketch written by the hands of a man who we're going to have on later on in the show, Richard Curtis himself. But there was a moment in the 2012 Olympics where obviously the world was watching, and with comedy, it's all spoken, doesn't translate directly to other languages. We all know that. But physical comedy really is the universal language. And there's a moment when Chariots of Fire is playing in the orchestra, and you hear the dum 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 moment on the keyboard, and the camera pans up, and suddenly Mr. Bean is sitting there. And I believe that if aliens were passing our planet at that point, they would have heard the sound of laughter globally, because everyone would have laughed at that moment. Yeah. I think it's the biggest laugh in history.
But it's like the whole world sort of having the same feeling, and probably the same. 2 billion is just an unbelievable number of people. Like you just can't put billions in your head. It's impossible.
I think even now we're only playing to 1 billion maximum. an upper limit on the I found out about another Rosetta Tharpe. She was gospel sometimes, wasn't she, Karen?
She's meant to be the godmother of rock and roll.
Yeah, she was this bridge between the two, the sacred and the secular. But she was fantastic because she played with an electric guitar, and she was really something. I used to watch a lot of her on YouTube, actually, weirdly, because you can't get good, high quality recordings of her performances because it's a long time ago. But her wedding. In fact, her third wedding was in front of 20,000 paying customers in a baseball stadium in Washington. This is so cool. This is 1951. She basically had been married twice before, and she decided the third wedding she wanted to make it a gig. In fact, I'm not sure if there was a groom at the time she decided she wanted to play a baseball stadium. she found a guy called Russell Morrison, and they did get married. And the reverend at the time asked all 20,000 people in the audience if anyone knew of any reason why these two people shouldn't be married. And then she played the electric guitar, and they went until midnight. And that, I think, was the first time, perhaps the first time any solo artist had played a baseball stadium like that in America. It was a huge first. Yeah, stadium rock didn't exist, did it? Rock didn't exist. So
because rock and roll music, she was described according to Billboard. They described her as rock and roll music, and that was 13 years before the first use of rock and roll in the Oxford English Dictionary to mean what we know it to mean today. So people called her rock and roll. I think rock and roll originally, it was to do with being on a ship, and then I think it meant sex, didn't it? Like it was a word for sex.
I think it was used, and then it was used in much more religious music, and it was about rocking and rolling in spiritual ecstasy kind of thing. And then I find it so funny that it then went from being gospel to being rock and roll, which then people started accusing of being satanic and evil. That weird phase in the 70s when everyone thought if you listened to everything backwards, it was a message from the devil. It all started out as holy music, and Elvis actually started with gospel, I think. That's right. I think the only 3 Grammys he got were all gospel music.
Really?
Wow.
So,
Right.
But she was a very clever woman, clearly. Rosa, I could take a leaf out of her books,
I don't think she ever played to 2 billion. That's a big baseball stadium, isn't it?
Really is.
Wow.
Do you know the very first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was Aretha Franklin, who has big gospel background as well. Her album Amazing Grace was a big hitter, and Amazing Grace is obviously one of the great gospel tunes that we have. I read this amazing story that when she was recording the album, they recorded it as a documentary. They filmed it as a documentary.
That's right. Yeah.
And it never got released. It has been released now, but
very recently,
Yeah, but it was decades. Do you know the story why it wasn't released?
No, I don't know why. I've watched the documentary.
What's it like? Is it?
Say that again. Sorry.
What is it like? Is it a good doc?
Yeah, it's amazing, fascinating. You really get an insight into how she lived and the dynamics within the church and with her dad. Her dad is a fascinating man. Really, yeah.
What was he then?
He was the pastor of the church.
All right.
But what's also really interesting is that she had another sister who could sing, and I think she was her producer for a little bit, but very, very talented and released music. But she kind of faded into the background because she had this sister who just overshadowed her whole life.
Oh, really? Tough. That is tough.
I think
It is tough.
Anna, you've got a sister, and you are definitely the more famous of the two. So don't go around saying, "Oh, it's so tough." But...
Oh, I'm extremely sympathetic towards her plight, poor girl. I think she's very comfortable with it.
Just a tiny thing about this Aretha Franklin documentary. The reason it spent, I think it was decades, not making it to the screen, is because when they filmed it, they failed to use a clapperboard for the sound. Now, in movies where they all come out and they go roll and they do that moment.
Yes.
So they weren't able to sync up the sound with it because there was so many fragments of different bits of material that it was too much work. And they went, the guy just went, I just can't do this. And so it was only when the person who bought it up in the end took on the challenge of sitting down that we now have it. So that was the only reason. A clapperboard was missing.
Wow.
They didn't have a clapperboard. Can't someone just...
Yeah. That's what
they just didn't do it.
What?
Yeah.
They dropped the ball. Come on.
So they use new technology to make it happen then, to get the documentary out there then?
I think it was a very laborious effort by them to do it. Yeah, I think it took a long, long time.
Andy's actually just gone to do it now to do the second half of the documentary. We did lose a lot. We've lost a lot of gospel stuff from the early days of gospel, actually from the main era of gospel, haven't we? I read 75% maybe of all recordings have gone. Lots of reasons.
Is it all the clapperboard thing?
It's well, it's just weird. I mean, we have lost a lot of material, but I mean, to be honest, there's a bit of racism in it, in that they kept a lot of the white people's music and not the black people's music. There's kind of the religious side of it as well. Like for some reason, there was something about not wanting to keep all the religious music, if you're not part of that religion. So yeah, we've lost so much stuff from the early days.
Are you talking about America?
In America, yeah, I should say in America. That's true. Yeah.
Aretha Franklin. This is lowering the tone. Always had a handbag on stage. This is a famous thing about her, which I didn't actually know, but quite a strange thing to do, I think. Do you know why she did it?
Yeah.
So there must have been something in there that she needed.
Yeah.
It was just the most practical reason ever.
Did she? Was she like Mary Poppins, and she could take her mic stand out of it?
Yes,
just like a whole gospel choir. Come on, let's do this. You're up next.
No, she was. She started out as a Margaret Thatcher tribute act, didn't she? I think that was why, and that's why she always had a handbag.
Ridiculous. Karen, do you have the actual answer?
Yeah, she used to keep money in her bag and take money on the stage.
Huge amounts. Yeah, didn't want it to get nicked. So instead of being paid in cash, so we get like 20 grand in cash, and then pop it in her handbag and have to keep it on the stage. So huge concerts and huge concert halls, she'd have to keep moving her handbag around so she could keep an eye on it.
So funny.
Wow. So weird.
Nobody twigged. That's what was in the bag. Nobody kind of.
Nobody twigged. If someone in the front row should have, got on that one.
I'm surprised no one tried to, like when we do gigs and we have our little bits of paper with our facts on, and you just kind of leave them to the side. People just steal those little bits of paper. So you'd have thought people would go for their handbags.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Maybe she had a better class of audience than we do, Jane.
She did. I saw her do a performance, and I encourage everyone to watch this on YouTube. Sometime after 20 hours, don't disappear on us now, but she did a performance for Carole King's big night at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., where she came out and she sang Natural Woman. She comes out, she sits at the piano, she takes her she's got a big fur coat on, she has a bag, and she starts playing the piano. Carole King is freaking out because she can't believe that Aretha's behind the keys, and she starts slow and she's going good. And then she gets up, and I swear to God, I've been to a lot of concerts, and I've seen a lot of music online. I have never seen someone rip the roof off in 3 minutes flat in the way that Aretha Franklin did with that song. And she takes her coat off near the end, and she's like just shaking her hand in the air, and the audience is going bananas. Obama's crying. That's right. Michelle's like, yes. Yeah. Carole King is passed out, basically. It's heaven. I'd
have loved to have been there. That must have been incredible.
Have you met some of your heroes, Karen, whenever they came to the UK?
Not singers. Well, yes, Andre Crouch, but I'm not sure if you know him. He was crossover, very, very famous gospel singer. I met Nelson Mandela.
Did you? What was the context? Bumped into him, or was it?
No, we were singing for him, actually. We were singing for him at the London School of Economics with Joan Armour Trading. And
what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were at Rise, and he had done this talk. And after the talk, the curtains go up, and there we are, this gospel choir, and we're singing a song for him that's specially written for him by Joan Armour Trading herself. And then he comes up on stage and dances with us. It was so amazing, really great.
Yeah. Wow. Good dancer?
Well, yes, in his way.
Okay, we know what that means. Theresa May.
Karen, can I ask you a question? Years ago, when Whitney Houston sadly passed away, I tuned into the live streamed funeral that she had, and there was a huge gospel choir because she was raised gospel as well, wasn't she? And I believe her mother was still running or part of it. Yeah. And I don't know what the song it is that I heard, but the songs, I was stunning. They went on for like 15 minutes, and they just kept getting bigger and bigger, and then playing with the mood. Is that a typical thing for? It was so joyous to see that at a funeral as well. Everyone was in such a mood.
Yeah, that's right. It's it's the power of music, but particularly gospel music. Very, very inspirational. And I do remember as a child that we could sing a 4-line chorus for about 20 minutes flat, clapping hands, playing tambourine, dancing and stamping, and it was incredible, and it would get more and more and more heightened, So yeah, those are great memories. And if you look on our website, actually, you've got a little clip of us doing that, just letting loose. We're at a photo shoot. Somebody starts to singing, and it all kicks off, and it's absolutely fabulous. But yes, that is the nature of gospel.
Yeah, and the power of music as well. And I think if we can just say one more time to the people watching, if you can give some money to Comic Relief, one thing that they do is they give money to community choirs around the UK, and that is really useful for people who are feeling, especially at the moment, feeling very isolated, very lonely. So that's really one good way that Comic Relief do use their money. So just like you say, Karen, it can really kind of help people kind of just like singing together. Is there a thing about it kind of gets your heartbeat in rhythm as well, like the choirs?
Absolutely, there is something about the heartbeat, and this is all scientific, that it helps with your endorphins, and I don't know. All I know is that people feel really good, and what happens with really good community choirs, they become like family. There's that connection, that thing of singing together and singing out, words, lyrics that are very, very positive about hope and peace and love and joy, and those things impact you. You sing them enough, it makes it life changing, actually.
Let's all do it. Everyone at home, do it. Freak out your neighbours. Sing the same chorus for 20 minutes. I would be evicted with my voice.
We should just quickly say, just a little update. We're past £27,000 on our Just Giving page. Thank you very much. Some people who've recently donated. Rachel Burns, thank you for your donation. Brian Bono, thank you for yours. Bono.
That's actually Bono's first name.
Is that Bono's first name? Wow. Yeah. Okay, Bono, thank you for tuning in. Marky Mark as well has just donated. I'm not even kidding. Marky Mark has donated. Obviously, different Marky Mark who's living in the Netherlands. And Carly as well. Probably Carly Simon, I imagine. Thank you, everyone who is donating to us at the moment. That's a huge amount, but we want more. So please keep giving it to us. Karen, we're going to have to wrap up with you in a second. Oh, really? It goes so quick. It goes too quick. It really does. Yeah. Can you tell us what your choir's up to in, you've got post-pandemic plans, or are you doing stuff online?
Yeah, lots of stuff. We're writing music as we speak. There's something in the pipeline that I can't quite talk about yet because it needs to be greenlit.
Right.
So new music, we've done the whole virtue video thing. That's done. But yeah, new music coming soon, a tour next year, a tour of England and I think possibly America. So yeah, lots of great things coming up and I can't wait.
Very exciting. And thank you for agreeing to be our person who sings down the line to us when we're feeling down.
It's in the contract. It was the third page. You didn't read that far. Sorry.
Oh, really now? Okay. Well, I'll say goodbye now.
Well, thank you so much to Karen Gibson and to everyone else who's watching. Stay tuned. We're going to go away for a couple of minutes now, but when we come back, it's going to be time for fact number 4 with Ian Hislop. See you in a sec.
Hi everyone, well I have just woken up 2 days after we did that Comic Relief 20-hour marathon. I really hope you enjoyed the video that you just watched. There's plenty more where that came from, so do watch them all. But in doing so, we have a deal. You watch the videos, you also have to pay. So go to comicrelief.com/fish. The link is just down there. And please give us anything you can afford because all the money that you can send us will be given to amazing causes. Please, please do donate now.